Mission log 24137B. Commencing transmission. War has changed. There was once a point in time when the tank was the pinnacle of modern warfare. Now, in the 21st century, our weapons have gotten bigger, more devastating, and easier to use. This type of escalation had the potential to destroy all life on Earth long ago, if it weren't for our own sense of self-preservation. Fortunately, political leaders realized this and attempted to make peace with each other through dialogue. As a result, numerous organizations involving nations all over the globe came together in the name of peace to settle their conflicts with one another. One of the first attempts of collective security was the League of Nations, formed in 1920 as a result of the Treaty of Versailles. Its aim was to strive for peace by providing protection to its member states from foreign aggressors. Although a noble concept with the best intentions in mind, it was plagued by many flaws which resulted in its eventual failure, mainly because its states could not come to a consensus when faced with national decisions. Now, in the modern era, a new faction has formed with the interest of peace and security at its forefront. The United Nations, a conglomerate of over 100 nations that strive for world security. But how will they fare with the trials that come ahead? Will they truly bring about an era of peace, or will they make the same mistakes as their predecessor?
We won't have security. Why do you permit to happen it? And I want anybody telling me clearly what were the reasons for the attack.
We take a look back of its accomplishments and its failures throughout history. Is there really a need for a UN at all?
Impact point is safe. Good, nice. Easy on the turn. Stand by for designated.
The Gulf War was a United Nations authorized military conflict between Iraq and a coalition force of 34 nations commissioned with expelling Iraqi forces from Kuwait after Iraq's occupation and annexation of Kuwait in August of 1990. Though there were nearly 36 member states of the coalition, the overwhelming majority of the military forces participating were from the US, with Saudi Arabia, the United Kingdom, and Egypt as its leading contributors. However, the resulting conflict was much swifter than UN generals had anticipated. A few months after the initial intervention, Iraqi troops began retreating from Kuwait, setting fire to the Kuwaiti oil fields as they left. Forces from the United States, the United Kingdom, and France continued to pursue retreating Iraqi forces over the border and back into Iraq, fighting frequent battles which resulted in massive losses for the Iraqi side and only moderate losses on the coalition, eventually moving to within only 150 miles of Baghdad before retreating.
And as president, I can report to the nation, aggression is defeated, the war is over.
President Bush declared a ceasefire, and on April 6th, he declared that Kuwait had been liberated. Afterwards, Operation Desert Storm began to move its 540,000 American troops out of the Persian Gulf. Overall, this mission was one of the few successes of the UN to date due to its appropriate response to the matter when all other options were exhausted and the awe-inspiring cooperation between the member states. Although the UN had limited success in other conflicts such as El Salvador and Mozambique, it had faltered many times and has caused irreparable damage to the very people they at first were trying to save. In the small East African country of Rwanda, 800,000 people were slaughtered by their own government, and virtually the whole world turned away and did almost nothing to stop the genocide.
They're looking at me with my bloomery, and they're saying, what in the hell happened?
It truly was one of the world's darkest and most brutal moments in our history. It was supposed to be a UN peacekeeping mission. They were to enforce a small peace agreement between the Rwandan government in Kigali and a rebel army mainly composed of Tutsi, a minority that had been prosecuted for decades. At the time, they were at odds with the Hutu, the ethnic majority. Under the UN-backed peace accord, the Hutus' power was to be shared between the Tutsi rebels, but the peace process was already faltering. With only 2,500 lightly armed troops, the UN was ill-prepared to enforce a fragile peace in a country they did not understand. Due to lack of military resources and support of any kind from the West, as well as poor strategic policies that were implemented, such as instating Belgian UN peacekeepers, who were frowned upon due to the history between the neighboring countries, the mission was doomed before the UN set up their first command post. The UN has had both its share of success and failure. Now they are currently dealing with yet another crisis. How they will respond to this is unbeknownst to anyone, and all we can do is wait and see. North Korea has recently tested its newest nuclear weapon, and the world is in uproar. North Korea claims that the tests were, quote, measures to bolster nuclear deterrent for self-defense. This is seen as a setback in talks to end North Korea's nuclear test program, and this act, along with many others in the past, give a clear message that North Korea's goal is to stare down the US.
When North Koreans successfully own ICBMs, they will no longer have to be subservient to the United States at the negotiating table.
The UN has already taken preliminary actions against North Korea by implementing economic sanctions. But how will they resolve a matter that could potentially affect the entire world? Over the course of history, the UN has proven both its usefulness and its ineffectiveness. But do we really need it? Although there is no definite answer as of yet, it is the only thing we have that attempts to resolve international endeavors and ensure peace and stability for generations to come.